Guys, yes, welcome to another exciting episode of Teams Like Brighton, where we are going to talk straight away on the Carabao Cup. Forest Green Rovers, big win, 11 changes. Richie, what were your thoughts on the match?
So, as far as I guess first Carabao Cup ties go, I think the scoreline flattered Brighton somewhat, but you can't argue with a 3-0 win. But I think it was a little bit expected. 11 changes from the unchanged sides that have beaten Man U and West Ham and drawn with Newcastle. So, I think Forest Green Rovers actually they didn't especially in the second half, they didn't make it easy for Brighton. I think they did pretty well in that midfield battle. But in terms of the positives, I think my standout players, I think it was great to see Tarek Lamptey just absolutely burning past people. Shades of kind of 2020 when he started at Brighton. I thought Levi Colwill looked really good, the Chelsea loanee. Big, strong, fast. Just do that thing. Was it quick, fast? Who's got pace? I thought he's a good option to have. I was very impressed with him. Same with Jambal Van Heck. Nothing really got past him in the air. On the flip side, and we can come on to this a little bit more, I didn't think Dennis Undev had that good a game, despite him scoring. And then it was obviously the youngsters. I thought Ferguson was very good. It was good that he got his goal at the end. I thought Jack Spong showed glimpses of his kind of talent. But on the whole, 3-0 win, through to the next round. Sadly, it's against Arsenal. I was hoping for another obscure place in the country. But not a bad result. What about yourself?
Yeah, it's interesting you hear about Dennis Undav. A lot of people were saying about how he didn't have the best of full debuts, shall we say. But I think the main takeaway from this is he got the goal.
Yeah.
So I think we might be seeing that type of play. I kind of got that feeling when I watched a few USG games towards the end of the season. He wasn't good or consistent in those 90 minutes, but he got goals. So I think he's very much a guy who definitely does take his chances, and that might be in sacrifice of a consistent 90 minutes. But honestly, I'll take that. And we kind of almost need that, really. I think when you look at the performances of what Mopé had, consistently, he wasn't that bad. He was actually pretty decent over 90 minutes. It's just he didn't score goals. And the main takeaway is, if we're talking about football in the lamest of layman's terms, strikers score goals. Midfielders set them up. Defenders stop goals with the keeper. But we all know it's a little bit more detailed in that now over the progression of how many years this game's been about. So I'll take it as it comes, really. I'll take it with a pinch of salt, the kind of reservations of Undav's debut. He's new to English football, totally okay with it. And like I said, he's got the goal and he did pretty well. I'm also really happy to see Steven Alzate. I'm a big Alzate fan. I don't think I've quite said it enough. I am a big fan of Steven Alzate, and him getting a full 90 minutes and getting the start and getting a goal is going in the right direction, because I can see him playing in that midfield in the Premier League. I think he's quality. I hope that he does get his chance, because I think he's definitely worth it, if I'm being brutally honest with you. Another solid cup appearance from Jason Steele as well.
Yeah,
the cup goalkeeping hero. Really, I think he's a brilliant team player there, and exciting to see a few of the youngsters play. Again, Potter's not afraid to play the youngsters, which is great. I think it really works well with what Bloom and Barber want, with the money they've invested into the youth system. We're really seeing a really good, clear pathway for all these youngsters. So hopefully, like to see them more. I'm pleased that Ferguson went. Really good finish as well by Ferguson as well. The utter cheek of it. But great positioning, great read of the game to just get in that position perfectly, to set himself up, position himself well, to just get the ball not only on target but also in the net as well. So all things are going in the right direction. And also as well, I didn't realise Ferguson's only 17.
Did you
I
not?
thought, no, I thought he was like 19, 20 at this point.
Oh, so still young. I thought you were going to say 10. I thought it was 32.
No, he's like, yeah, I thought he was like 19, 20 at this point. No, he's only 17. The kid's not old enough to drink in the pub yet, and he's scoring goals for fun. Love it. Love to see it. I hope he breaks into the first team in the next couple of years. I think he's a talent. I really do. I think he's what is he 6 foot plus? He's 6 foot plus.
I think he's actually grown because
Yeah.
after the game I quite like it when you go to lower league teams because you're allowed to sort of you can do post match press conferences basically on the pitch, like in the corner of the pitch. So we had to walk around and I did a couple of like touching the grass and little slides and touching the goal, like the big kid I am, on the way to chatting to Graham Potter and so. But yeah, so I chatted to Evan Ferguson briefly after the game, and yeah, because I think he's listed as 6 foot, but I think he's grown, and you know he is.
He's definitely grown.
He's still, he's only 17, so he can do that. So
I think I saw him early on this season. I walked past him. I'm 5'11". He's definitely taller than 6 foot. Definitely.
I'm 6 foot, and he was. I think he looked taller than me. So, but yeah,
that says a lot.
And he's also built like
he is.
In the past. I think I've spoken to guys from Ireland, like reporters from Ireland, and because obviously Ferguson came from Bohemians in January 2021, I believe, and they were saying, at the time when he was 16, he's like, well, he's got the physique of a 21-year-old. He's like he's in a man's body type thing. He's very for such a precocious talent. He's ahead of his years in terms of build. So yeah, and just on him, like, it was a really good all-round performance. He showed like a lot of quality in terms of he held the ball up well at times, but he was also prepared to drop deep and start to facilitate attacks. There was again on Undav. He raced ahead with the ball towards the box and then just dinked in a beautiful, like, inch perfect cross to Undav. And then Undav had a sitter of a header and he heads it wide. So yeah, good range of passing, and then obviously that audacious little kind of backheel flick for the goal right at the end. So yeah, I think he's definitely one that is one to look up. Or I asked like Graham Potter after, what does he make of his performance, and he said obviously he's got lots of great attributes, good movement, intelligent, exciting future, but he says I want to be careful with him in terms of his development. He's training with us with the first team every day and never looks out of place. But I wouldn't want to rush him into anything at the same time. We really believe that he's going to have a really big future. So I think, as you say, he is 17, not 19 or 20. So they don't want to, I guess it's a case of you don't want to big him up too much. You really want to kind of ease him in. And I think we might have said this in a previous pod, but I wouldn't be surprised if he went on loan, maybe for a couple of years or something like that. Maybe a League One or a Championship or even a League Two, just to kind of really give him the pathway. Because I think, yeah, he is definitely one to watch, and I think you need to manage him right.
It'll be interesting to see whether or not he'll be over in the Premier League 2 action season, or whether or not he will be playing football on loan somewhere. Who knows? But moving on slightly away from the players, I want to just talk about this. Okay, I want to report a bit of a scran crime. That is an unhealthy distribution of salt on that pie, Richie. Right? Can we just talk about the decision making here? Was it just a free for all?
No, it wasn't. I think I just I like salt, right? Yeah, I think I just got the salt and I guess poured too much on. I mean, but what's wrong with that?
Also, as well, please tell me that's not HP sauce.
No, it was very dark ketchup.
Very dark ketchup. Okay, all right, that's successful. What was the pie?
A vegan one.
A vegan one?
Yes. Well, because
Vegan-
everything there
Oh,
is
of
kind
course
of
it is, yeah,
vegan
because it's
food.
Forest Green. There's me thinking steak and ale.
Yeah. So I think it was.
Was it their legendary jackfruit pie?
No, it wasn't jackfruit.
No.
It was definitely something ale, but yeah, the inside was. Don't get me wrong, I like vegan food, but this sometimes I think there's when vegan food tries to sort of copy a bacon or sometimes like a steak and ale pie or something like that. It still needs a bit of work. It was a bit grey and gunky. I still polished it off pretty well because I like food. But there was I can't remember, I won't name them, but there was someone in the media box who basically, I think he got out a piece of cardboard nearby and went, "You're essentially eating that." So that was their thoughts on eating the vegan food. But yeah, it was I think it was £8.30 for that and a soft drink. And a soft drink came. I asked for water, and it just came in a can, which is weird, but maybe greener. So
It is greener, and it's easy. It's easier to cool it as well.
right. Although it's not like, so for example, if you put it on the floor by your foot, it is easy to get knocked over, as I found. And I found that my bottom of my foot was a bit wet. It's a sort of cramped press box. And I knocked it over. So I was like, and I was really thirsty because so I got the train from Paddington to Stroud and then got a bus down near to Nailsworth, or in Nailsworth, and then it's a bit of a walk to the ground. And I was told to go to a certain bus stop to get to Forest Green. And then as I was waiting for my bus, the bus went past my bus stop, round the roundabout and on the other side. I was like, oh, crap. So and then I picked up my stuff quickly because I was doing a bit of work at the bus stop. And I left my bottle of water at the bus stop. So I was pretty thirsty. And then to add insult to injury, I knocked over my can of water. So I was pretty parched during much of the game.
Devastating. And then you just add insult to injury by putting in an unhealthy amount of salt on your pie and chips.
That was before the game. That was before. So I was able to fill up, but yeah, it was not a great day on that front.
Well, after all that, Forest Green win as well. Potter's presser. What were the key takes from that post-match conference?
So he basically said it was a good result to get through. It wasn't a comfortable one. They pushed us back, especially in the second half, but it was good for the youngsters to get out. He said on Undav, he was basically asked, what did he make of his performance? And he said he will get better, which I think is a very nice way of saying he was all right. And he said similar for kind of Julio and Ciso, who I thought had a decent game in parts. Kaoru Matoma again, or actually no, apparently we spoke to a Japanese journalist, and it's Kaoru Matoma. It's not Kaoru. You got it's almost like each little bit. And then Steven Anzate, Jean-Paul Van Heck, Levi Colwell. So they all need some game time, and it isn't easy for them coming here because the crowd are obviously with the team and they're posing a different threat to what you have to deal with generally. He spoke about, as I mentioned earlier, Ferguson, but I asked him about Tarek Lamptey because as I said, I personally thought that he looked almost back to his kind of fearless best when he was just taking on people for fun. So he said, I thought Tarrant did well over the game. He is someone that is building his fitness back up from preseason as well. So he would have benefited from the game tonight, and he was part of a team performance that was strong from the first half and then helped out in the second. So maybe not too, buoyant or about his performance. And then he said with Batoma, I think he will improve. That's the first start he's had in a long time, so it isn't easy. but you know, we've already seen the impact he can have in the Premier League. So I think it was generally I don't think there's too much you can take away from a Carabao Cup match, especially for the youngsters. I think one thing that I would say, and I'd actually maybe disagree, and I think I'm in the minority, so I might be wrong, but I didn't actually think Steve Lansbury had that great a game. I thought there were times when he lost the ball and was a bit errant with his passing, and
take it back. Take it back. I would not have that.
But yeah, so I guess my takeaway is that I think there are, in terms of guys who will come in, I don't think there were that many who sort of put their hand up to say, "Hey, Gaffer, I want to come in and start." I would say the closest for me were Lamptey and Colwell. What about you?
Yeah, to be fair, I do agree with a lot of things you said, including the Alzate stuff. Well, purely from the commentary that I heard and from the live blog I was reading as well on Sussex Live. So there was a lot there. The highlights I only ever give us a snippet really of how the game was truly played. So I think, yeah, Colwell's clearly knocking on the door. Tariq Lamptey was always going to be the only player I think in there that was always going to be knocking on starting for this weekend. I think Cole might play. He might think he'll be on the bench at the very least. But again, I can't see a lot of these players kind of justifying dropping the likes of Welbeck, Trossard, Caicedo, Gross, March. There is quite. I think the week has shown how good our depth is. It is really, really strong.
Yeah,
I think it's the strongest it has been since, well, even in the Championship. So I think that is a positive. But at the same time, there is clearly a level of expectation that is needed if you want to start week in, week out in the Premier League. And I think Potter's really instilled that. And I think a lot of those players are aware and they might be happy with the win, but are they happy overall with that performance to give Potter a bit of a headache? And I don't think that's the case. But a long, long way to go. And who knows? Who knows what will be? Next time they might feature at Arsenal. But we've got a long wait for that. November. We've got to wait till November for that.
It's weird. Because I think so when Brighton beat Cardiff last year, that was, I think, literally on the same day as the Forest Green Rovers one, you know, a year ago. And then the Swansea match was the end of September. So that's, yeah, I guess they're going to have to push back the League Cup. There's going to be a much later League Cup finish. But yeah, it was a strange one. Oh yeah, a lot of people were like, "What? That's a bit odd."
Yeah, I thought I was there like thinking, "Oh, okay, cool, September night. I'm happy with it. Hope it's on the Wednesday. I'm hoping it's on the Wednesday because that'll fit in really nicely with me in the office."
Nice.
He said hopefully he won't. I know for a fact now it's going to be either a Tuesday or a weird Thursday, just to help out with Arsenal scheduling over the Europa League places. But who knows? I think it'll be, again, I think it'll be an interesting one. I have actually just seen as well that the date for the final is the 26th of February. So I think it's earlier than last season's finish. Make it make sense. Yeah, make it make sense.
They've had to play so many rounds.
Yeah.
From after the World Cup to.
Yeah. We commence. Yeah. Basically, the week after the World Cup finishes, it's the 4th round. Then on the 9th of January, it's the 5th round. And then we go on to the semi-finals, which is the 23rd and the 30th of January, we commencing. And then the finals on Sunday, the 26th of February.
Crikey.
Like, there's, like, if Liverpool successfully defend this, you're not going to hear the end of Jurgen Klopp yapping on about fixture congestion.
Yeah.
On top of Champions League football that he's got, I don't think they actually have a full week's break outside of international breaks, Liverpool, when Champions League football starts, which is just insane. And I think as well, like the draw was yesterday as well. On the side note, got briefly slightly away from Brighton. The draw happened last week. The first game, I'm pretty sure, is start of September. That's a really quick transition. Really quick. And all the group stage matches are literally every single week now. which is bonkers, all because of the World Cup. And it is really frustrating to see that this has been accommodated in the way that it has. It really shouldn't. Personally, my opinion, shouldn't be in Qatar. And I think we're going to see quite a fair few clubs struggle with the fixture congestion. It'll be interesting to see how it happens. Personally, I don't think Brighton will struggle. So maybe we might see an opening of a top 6 break. Who knows? Fingers crossed. But I will digress. But I will go back to Europe slightly because there is a huge 6-pointer in the race for Europe at the Amex because Leeds are in town. The mighty Leeds United are in town. I'm excited for this one. I really enjoy welcoming Leeds to the Amex. I'm pretty sure, looking back since we've been at the Amex, it's always been a really good spectacle. I remember the first time they were there. I think we drew 2-2 3-2. Big goal scoring match. Kasper Ankergren decides just to ping it right down the middle and gift Leeds an equaliser. I still haven't forgiven him for that because that really annoyed my day. Trying to think of all the other matches that there's always been. It's never been a dull match. I think at the Amex when Leeds are in town. Even last season's 0-0 was unbelievable. It was a really entertaining 0-0. It was just incredibly frustrating. We just could not score that day. So probably why there was a few people that was frustrated. That and the poor home form last season. But I'm looking forward to it. I don't know. What about you, Richie? Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just going on your point, I think Brighton have only lost one of their last 11 meetings of Leeds, going back to, I think, 2014. So they've really had their number. And it seems, and we'll talk about this, with Beren as well. But yeah, I mean, Brighton could have won all 4 of their Premier League meetings since Leeds got promoted in 2020. Definitely deserved to win the first 2 in the first season under Marcelo Bielsa. Last season, Brighton just, it was just a really head-scratching game where you just how have Brighton not beaten Leeds at the Amex? And then I think it was much more even affair at Ellen Road in the 1-1 draw, but I actually think Brighton had the clearer cut chances. Like Danny Welbeck missed a pretty, I wouldn't say routine, but a really good chance for a header near the end. And then even after they scored their goal in stoppage time, Lamptey had a shot that went a whisker wide with literally seconds to go. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Brighton can continue to outsmart and outthink Leeds, which I think they have done. But it's a tasty one, and 2 teams fighting for Champions League.
So like I say, like two teams going in for this, hoping to break into European places, because that is the delirium we talk about here on teams like Brighton. It's only August, but screw it, we're going on the European tour. But Leeds are doing well. I am surprised at how well they have gelled and clicked, particularly Leeds' midfield. Jesse Marsh brought in a couple of good signings in, and they've clearly made an impact. You look at how they played against Chelsea last weekend. Chelsea looked like a shadow of themselves. I really thought that Chelsea were going to draw a line onto their poor form and their poor end to the season or poor second half of the season. But they don't seem to have clicked in the same way that Leeds' new look side has clicked. And I think the credit goes where credit's due, and Jesse Marsh has clearly done wonders in pre-season to manage to get that team clicking so well, so quickly in such a demanding league. It'd be really interesting to see. I think the match is going to be one in the midfield, so it's going to be interesting to see how Leeds' midfield comes up against us and vice versa. And it'll be interesting to see as well how Potter deals with that. Potter's so good at those micro tactics, unique for every opposition. It will be really interesting to see how he reads the game and how he's going to quickly change his tactics so that we can get all 3 points.
Yeah, I think it's. I think what's interesting for me, a takeaway from Leeds is that Jesse Marsh was obviously brought in after Bielsa was sacked, I think at the end of February. And I think a lot of the feeling was, and certainly when Brighton came to Ellen Road in May, people were still very much in the loving Bielsa. Like there were chants for Marcelo Bielsa when Brighton were 1-0 up and looked like they were heading for the win. You couldn't really see a sort of an identity about Leeds at the time. It was very much just like what they're trying to do doesn't seem to really work. But the main thing was about survival, and they did survive by the skin of their teeth. But now Jesse Marsch has brought in players that he knows, that he's worked with in the past, like a Brendan Aronson, a Tyler Adams, who I think they both. Well, I think Aronson was at Salzburg, and Tyler Adams was, I think, back in New York when Jesse was starting out. And so he's brought in these players, and also I think Christensen, the right back. So he's brought in players that he knows, and now it's just like they've got a full preseason under the belt. It looks like they're gelled. So I still personally think that Brighton are I think they're favourites to win this, and it's still pretty early days. I think the fixtures have been kinder to Leeds than they have to Brighton. But yeah, I mean, they are definitely seeming like they're clicking. But I still think that Brighton might have the street smarts to edge it.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it happens. But in the meantime, we have got Beren joining us from LeedsLive, and he'll be talking to us everything about Jesse Marsch's side and all the latest that's going on over at Ellen Road. And of course, it's not much of a preview episode here on Teams Like Brighton without interviewing and journalists reporting on the opposition team. And here we have LeedsLive's very own Beren Cross. Beren, how you doing, mate?
Very well, thank you, Tom. Thanks for having me.
No, great to have you on. Let's dive straight in. All things Leeds. What do you know about the latest in terms of team news going ahead to this weekend?
So we're speaking on Thursday afternoon in terms of timestamping this. We spoke to Jesse Marsch Thursday lunchtime, and it's pretty much as you were. So Luke Ayling and Junior Firpo back in training next week. Stuart Dallas, most football fans will know, suffered a really, really bad leg break earlier in the year, so he's out until the end of this year, if not early next year. Patrick Bamford is one that Brighton fans might have an eye on. Undecided what they're going to do with him. I think he's going to be on the bench at best, as I'm sure you've already seen. Leeds played so well on Sunday. I don't think we're expecting too many changes, really.
Great. And just on, I guess Leeds' start has been very impressive. Obviously, I think they're in the top four already. What have you made of Leeds' start to the season? Maybe the changes that have come in from last season. What's the kind of main takeaways, I guess?
Well, yeah, very, very encouraging, as you've alluded to. They have had quite a favourable fixture run, I think, aside from Chelsea last weekend, which was supposed to be the toughest game in the opening run they've got. It's quite appetising and a good opportunity for a team that finished fourth bottom to get some points on the board early on and try and avoid some of the pressure they found last year. They didn't get their first win last season until match day 6 or match day 7. So you can imagine it was quite ominous, really, for quite a few weeks at the start of last campaign. So very, very encouraging. 7 points from 9. It should be 9 points from 9, really. I don't know if any of your listeners will have watched the Leeds Southampton highlights, but Leeds were 2-0 up there at Southampton and just collapsed really in the final 20 minutes and allowed the Saints back in. So it should really be 9 from 9. So it's been very, very encouraging. Clearly, Marsch is saying there's still a long way to go, but the early signs are very promising in terms of how the new signings are bedded in, how his system is working. I think the absence of the stress that surrounded the run-in last year, where, as we all now know, Leeds were obviously fighting for their lives week in, week out through the home stretch of last season with Marsch in charge. So to have that stress removed from their shoulders and they play with a bit more freedom, a bit less pressure, it's really, really working ever so well. And Sunday really summed that up.
And of course, no doubt their form has been down to a number of key signings that you guys have had. Some have made quite an impression. What are your thoughts on Leeds' transfer activities this summer?
Well, I think as ever, fans always want more, don't they? So there is certainly an appetite for a striker, which has been talked about all summer. But the longer it goes on, it does feel less and less likely now. As we know, all clubs are very agile and willing to move in the final days of the window if the right player becomes available. So if the dominoes do fall at a few clubs for Leeds, then they may well act. But on the business they have done, the official line is they got 5 of the 6 they wanted. The 6th was Charles de Ketelaere, the Belgian striker who went to Milan. So to get 5 of the other 6 they needed and wanted is pretty impressive. Aronson and Adams, the 2 Americans, have shone incredible on Sunday against Chelsea. I mean, Aronson just seems to be absolutely tailor-made for this system under Marsch. Clearly knows Marsch pretty well from his past at Salzburg, as does Tyler Adams from his past at New York Red Bulls. Sinisterra is the de facto Rafinha replacement. We haven't seen a great deal of him yet. He made his full debut on Wednesday evening against Barnsley in the Cup, and he had a hand in all 3 goals. So, I mean, as starts go, it was pretty impressive. But Aronson and Adams have certainly caught the eye. Rasmus Christensen is at right back. He's been a little bit shakier. We expected he might actually be the best of the signings, but does seem to need a bit more time to bed in. And Mark Rocker has been very, very solid in the middle as well, but perhaps overshadowed by Adams.
Interesting. And I think obviously the head-to-head record since Leeds got promoted is 2 wins for Brighton, 2 draws, and arguably Brighton, well, they probably should have won the 0-0 draw at the Amex last season. What have you made of sort of the matchup between the 2 teams, and where can Leeds sort of be vulnerable in the pitch?
I completely agree with you. I mean, Brighton certainly have been Leeds' bogey team since Potter came in. I think even when Leeds played Swansea, Potter was very, very astute at finding a system that did at least give Bielsa some problems. And that then carried into his tenure at Brighton. And it has been really, really difficult to get a result over them. You might remember when Brighton visited Ellen Road during the COVID season and the pitch was atrocious. But Brighton just completely pulled them apart and really played to the conditions quite nicely. And as you say, Richie, the away game last year at the Amex, I mean, we still have no idea how Leeds managed to get a point out of that game. I mean, that you guys will remember better than me, but I mean, post-match, Potter was actually maybe not under pressure, but was pretty snarky in his press conference. You know, he was very frustrated with the tone of questions and the way the fans were reacting. I think the fans were quite off colour that night, if you like. They were a bit frustrated that Brighton were drawing these games, and they absolutely hammered Leeds that night and couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. And obviously, time has played out, and now Brighton are obviously in a very, very strong position, and Potter's clearly doing a wonderful job. So, yes, it's not going to be easy at all for Leeds. And just because they've beaten Chelsea doesn't mean they suddenly think they're going to go to Brighton and win. I think it's going to be a very, very tough game, especially with the way Brighton have started this season. So, Leeds' weakness are probably down the flanks. I think Marsch does favour a very narrow attacking system, so it does pull players through that central channel. And it does put an immense demand on the fullbacks. Hasn't been too badly exposed to the start of this season, but in pre-season, they suffered counterattacks far too frequently and to far too great a level in terms of danger. We were very, very potent counterattacks because Leeds were getting caught upfield with basically just the centre-backs back. So I think the flanks is where it's going to be won and lost. Thankfully, Leeds' aggression won out on Sunday against Chelsea, really pinned the Chelsea wing-backs in, and they just couldn't get out at all. So Leeds will want to play through the centre and congest that middle area, play between the lines, and play quite vertical football. You might have read already in your research that they do play very direct and very vertical and try to get the ball towards the opposition penalty box as fast as possible without being a long ball lumpet team. But yeah, certainly the fullbacks are where Brighton should look to find some advantage.
And you said quite a lot there going into the match, and you probably might have influenced yourself going ahead to this, but we want to know, what is your prediction going ahead to this weekend?
Well, I think given how well Brighton have started this season and how well Brighton have played against Leeds, we have got some scars playing against the Seagulls. So I think given how Leeds have started, and they really were brilliant on Sunday, I've got to say that. I mean, that's the best they've played in since peak Bielsa, really. They were absolutely extraordinary against the top 6 teams. So I'm probably going to come down and say a 1-1 draw. I think could sit on the fence a little bit. But yeah, I think it will be a really, really tough game for Leeds.
Another potential draw at the Amex.
You guys
the comments you were just saying just then as well.
Just draw after draw after draw.
Gotta love a good draw at the Amex. Richie, what are you going for?
I think as Beren put very well, I think Brighton have there's a little bit of a bogey team. Is a different side under Jesse Marsch, but
it's Marsch, isn't it? It's not Bielsa this time. That's true.
Yeah, but I just feel I think Brighton are very street smart. But I think, for example, if it was at Leeds, I think Brighton might be able to win because they're much better away from home. I'm going to go for 1-0.
You go for 1-0. I'm going to keep my streak of 2-2.
Nice.
It's
So
going well.
really-
Tom's doing 2-2 for every single one
many
in the hope that Brighton continue their very good form this season. So
God, I can't believe how many draws there are at the Amex. It's crazy.
Oh, we love a good draw at the moment. It's it is getting crazy, but yeah, it is interesting hearing from your side of things as well about Graham Potter and his comments the last time Leeds were in town.
Yeah,
I think from memory, our home form wasn't great. We were really good at home, and just our home form just never really clicked since we've been in the Premier League. And it is definitely something that Potter needs to address, in my opinion, anyway. But on that day when I heard the boos coming, even I was like, "That's a bit drastic."
yeah,
Our form at home hasn't been superb, and yeah, there are rightfully a few moans and groans in the stands, but a direct boo against a Leeds side who, yeah, we battered them on the day, but at the end of the day, it's 0-0, and our problem's always been in front of goal as well.
Yeah.
Create the chances, just never convert them. So it will be interesting to see how Potter lines us up against Leeds and takes it from there, really.
Yeah, I think he was quite with it. It was quite nice to actually hear a manager be quite outspoken because he wasn't shirking it. He was coming out and saying, he was effectively saying, "What on earth are people booing for? You know, look at where Brighton have been in recent years. Look at where we've come from. Look at how we're doing this season." I mean, I can't believe people are actually booing about that, a match that we've hammered the opposition, and it's just one of those nights. But yeah, I don't know what else what he can do really. I think that this system is clearly working brilliantly. I mean, I follow various bits of football coverage here and there with some Brighton focus, and obviously losing Cucurella and Basuma, I assume, was supposed to be a big blow, but people seem to be quite amazed at how well you're playing without them still. So clearly the head coach is doing an unbelievable job, and I suppose it does just coming down to having somebody in the box to finish chances. But I guess if Welbeck stays fit, then that should answer the problem, shouldn't it?
You like to think so, yes. Unfortunately, Welbeck is sadly a bit of a liability in terms of staying fit week in, week out. Otherwise, if he was, he wouldn't be playing for Brighton. That's for sure.
True, yeah, very, very true. Yeah, very
he
true.
Wouldn't be. But you can see the influence he has on the guys. You can see the influence he has on the pitch and what he can offer as well when he plays the full 90 minutes. He's superb. But it will be interesting to see how the likes of Sundav comes through and makes a Premier League appearance. Might make one this weekend. Don't know if that'll be the case, considering he played at Forest Green Rovers midweek, so he could be in the squad. Might not. Who knows?
Is the new left back going to come in and release Trossard into a more attacking position, or is Trossard going to have to stay at wing back, do you think?
So yeah, that is a good question. Basically, what they saw against West Ham was Trossard was playing a wing back. Then Estupiñán came on. Brighton switched from a 3 and a 2 to a back 4, and then Trossard switched that side on the wing, and then he went on and scored. So they've got that flexibility to do it. So they've definitely got quite a few options there.
Excellent.
Right, we'll wrap that up there. Beren, thank you so much for joining us on Teams Like Brighton. Enjoy the game at the Amex.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Looking forward to it.